So I don't believe in one national grid, but I do believe that there needs to be strengthening of the high voltage system, mainly to bring large-scale nuclear baseload power from the sites where you can site nuclear to the local load centers. What I call the pragmatic wing of the environmental movement, and Environmental Defense Fund is certainly one of the leaders in that area. They recognize that you cannot get to 80% carbon reduction worldwide by 2050 while assuming that there's going to be growth, economic growth, without a whole lot of nuclear plants.
Okay. And what are the downsides to nuclear? What are the big objections? There's no CO2 emissions, so what are the other problems?
There are not only no CO2 emissions, of course, there's no sulfur emissions, there's no NOx, so acid rain, ozone, you're zeroed out on everything with nuclear. Obviously, the two things that people talk about, one is the waste disposal. And I would say, you know, we've got this solution that's good for 100 to 200 years, dry cask storage. Let's use it, because we don't have 50 to 100 years to solve the global warming problem. So the second question, nuclear proliferation, is the United States went down the path of using low enriched uranium in American nuclear plants because it was difficult to turn that type of fuel into bomb material. I mean, if you think where the world is today since the 1970s, all sorts of countries have nuclear weapons, first of all, and there's all sorts of fissile material that's coming out of the old Soviet Union. There was an article in Time magazine today that says, I think there's more than 1,000 pounds of bomb-grade uranium or plutonium in Kazakhstan. So if you're trying to get your hands on some weapons-grade fuel, are you going to go to an American civil reactor, or are you going to try and get it out of Kazakhstan? My bet's on the latter.
Right. I mean, why are they so expensive to build?
Well, I think there are a couple things. One is, I mean, the price tag for a nuclear plant is enormous because the plants themselves are enormous. Second is, if you saw the quality and the redundancy that goes into a nuclear plant in terms of the design and the fail-safe systems, you would be very much comforted. But the third thing, and this is the good news, is that having not built a nuclear plant in this country for 30 years, the first ones that get built, first of all, they'll have to rely on importation of a lot of key equipment. And of course, everything's be done for the first time in terms of resurrecting the supply chain. If we build actually a wave of nuclear plants, you can see the cost coming down. And I've heard estimates of the overall cost for new nuclear construction coming down by 30 or 40%.
Really?
If we start building
just the economies of scale?
Economies of scale.